Whoosh, it's us. Hey, everybody in there. It's us here on the internet. It's me, Jesse Galena. You probably are familiar with me if you're here, but who you should be familiar with is Run DMG, today's guest. Let me straighten your camera up a little bit and then tell everybody a little bit about yourself, because I know you from delightful shorts on YouTube. Ooh. Oh, sorry. Hang on one second. You apparently are muted, but I can fix that. All right. Now people should be able to hear you.
Hey, hi, everybody. It's nice to meet all of you. I'm Run DMG. Um, I do stuff all over the internet. I make memes. I do funny little shorts. I do stuff on YouTube. But I also do things on like Instagram, TikTok. Mostly it's comedic. I like doing little funny skits. I actually have just started doing more like long form videos on YouTube, which has been a very interesting transition. Um, because I was saying before, like the setup costs are so much smaller for short form. It takes like 10 minutes to do. There's very little editing that I have to do. And like I
Mm-hmm.
can shoot a whole video and maybe get like 1 million views with like grand total an hour's worth of labor. My last YouTube video, I think I spent a couple hours recording it and then a couple hours editing it. I think I'm sitting at 500 views for my long form videos. It's been it's a process. But yeah, I do all sorts of stuff, mostly tabletop RPG in nature. I love all tabletop RPGs, not just like Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
Okay. What's your favorite like indie one then? Because I love all of them.
that's it's a broad question. I'm a big fan of Into the Odd. Um,
I have heard really good things about Into the Odd.
it's a super simple kind of not OSR. It was NSR. Is that it was like New School Rebellion or Renaissance. It's that, so it's very rules light. It's got a really fun system. Combat's tight. You don't roll to attack, you just do damage. So everything is like really quick, brutal. I wrote an intro adventure, not officially, but like my own intro adventure for it because I loved it so much. It's called New Rats and Old Bastion. And then also the thing I love about Into the Odd is it has so many different like permutations that like Mouse Ritter, you have Cairn, there's like hundreds of different offshoots of it. So if you know how to play Into the Odd, you know how to play like 50 games. So it's really it's one of my favorites. That and maybe Morkborg. I love Morkborg as well. So
I just got to play the like Morkborg tabletop one,
okay,
Forbidden
yeah.
Psalms, and that made me want to play
Yeah.
Morkborg because that was super fun. And the pitch was uh like Monty Python meets Dark Souls is kind of the mood of
Yes.
it, and that is exactly what it felt like. It was so good.
I love Merkborg. I when I first played it, I thought it was going to be like, well, I don't want to play a super grim dark, super serious game. I have
Mm-hmm.
found that it very much becomes Monty Python, except like if Monty Python had like an NC-17 rating and was like sponsored by Metalocalypse. Like it's very much like that, and I love
Yeah,
it. It's so much fun. It's so funny too.
yeah.
Once you get everybody at the table, just be like, everybody's gonna die. It's gonna be fun, and like you're gonna be laughing while your character just like it got exploded. Um, but yeah, I love Merkborg. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, that's my Slack. Thanks, Bendis.
Someone got a Slack
I might
message.
I might have to turn that off, and hopefully no one will attempt to get in touch with me. Well, if they do, they can just use chat. They know where I am. We all work at the same place. They can see
Yeah.
someone's online. All right. So if everybody has a chat in chat has questions, this is RPG Help Desk. So we help people out with questions that they have. However, we do have a topic for today of making a memorable antagonist or building a better baddie. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. If you have questions on that, feel free to ask now or later. I will write them down so we get to them all. If you have an unrelated question, we are both okay with getting off topic, so you can go ahead and do that too. And
Yeah,
Cardine,
super
it's
okay.
okay to miss the intro. This is Run DMG. Cool. That's what you need to know.
Howdy.
So, okay. So villains. What is like your guiding star, or I guess probably multiple? Like, what are the ways you like making a memorable villain?
So this is my I've been working on this theory for a while. And it's something I just posted a video about too.
Okay.
I think a scary villain and like a really memorable villain is a capable villain. Um
Ooh, that
I
is
think
good.
the biggest I think I did this too when I first started playing. There is this you're playing with your friends, you really want to like give them the win. You really want them to succeed all the time. The problem is if they succeed all the time in the face of the BBG, that means the BBG is not very capable.
Mm-hmm.
And they almost to like without fail, it's happened to me in like two or three groups. If the BBG never succeeds, they stop taking them seriously and they become a bit of a joke. And I in the video I kind of reference like you came into it like expecting Darth Vader and plate mail, but what you got was Dark Helmet, which is like this kind of like bumbling non-threat that is more funny than like menace. And I think it's a very common problem. So that's something
Mm-hmm.
I've been working on is like making your villains capable and like not holding back. Like if they threaten something, they're going to do it. It's not, there's no like false threats. I think those are what makes like a great villain. Like because it could be anything like like even if you have like some goofy little guy, if you know that they're like, hey, I'm gonna come for one of your parents, and as a player either you're gonna be like, oh well, that's never gonna happen, we're gonna beat him, or it's like, oh no, they might actually get my parents.
Oh
if
yeah.
there's like if there's some threat of like competency, I think that's way more threatening than just some like vague existential terror, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do love a very personal. I think that's one thing that I was gonna make, and I'm gonna put it in my notes here. I may even spell it right the first time. There we go. Is yeah, make it personal. Like
Yes.
that is a thing. Like world destruction can be used,
Mm,
but even in that, there's a way to make it personal. I had a villain, and this two topics on this. I had a villain. One thing that I really like doing is trying to give like similar, either a similar goal or like similar beliefs to the players, but they want to execute it a different way. So like
yeah.
fix the world can be a thing. It's like, oh yeah, well we want to fix the world. You want to fix the world. That's cool. But they're like, but this is how we should fix the world. And they're like, no, that's bad. That the ends do not justify the means. We cannot allow this. So yeah, even
Yeah.
if it is a world-ending problem, like there should be something personal. And having like, I like a villain that can like have a conversation as well
Mhm.
and like humanize them. Like you are in a situation where, oh yeah, well, we're gonna be civil to each other right now, especially if you could do this before they know it's the big bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I got to do that for one player where they uh, got to like build a relationship with this person who then got to literally stab them in the back and be like, haha, it was me the whole time, which is really fun. But
I
yeah,
do think the
mhm.
yeah, that personal touch is what takes it because I think there's what the character is supposed to do and then what the player wants. Think that personal touch bends it from like, oh, my character would want to do this to being like, oh, I want to murder this person.
Yeah.
I think that's what that personal touch is because like vague existential threats, they're great motivation for a character, but not
Hmm.
necessarily the player.
Yeah.
They know that it's bad or wrong or whatever, and that they have to stop it, but it's not. It doesn't like rise their passion the same way.
I totally agree. Like, it's so important. And the reaction you get from a player when they're the one that wants it is also just
Oh
like
yes,
it's food for DMs. Like it's just it drives us.
exactly. Because if I can if I can create a situation where I can put revenge versus something else that you should be doing and you
Mm.
choose revenge, like even if it's like you're thinking about choosing revenge, that tends to be a lot more juicier than just like, oh well, I'm just gonna do the good thing. I think I don't care about this villain. Um, yeah, I think that's what drives it home. I also think what happens a lot, especially with new DMs, is they make a lot of like vague existential threats, like, oh, my
Mm.
BBG is going to take over the Aetherverse by controlling the 9 crystals of Urn. Um,
Wow.
which as a player, it's like, oh, that sounds important, but it
Hmm.
doesn't really drive you forward in a way. Like you just know, oh, I just need to stop that. But if you
Right.
make another thing, another belief I have is like making a capable villain is like putting their goals as easily definable, because if they're easy to
Ooh.
define, you can like if you say, oh, well, they just want to take over the city. Okay, that's like vaguely threatening, but it's like,
Right.
oh no, they want to like murder the mayor. They want to take over the local guard. Like you're giving them like, oh, like if they kill the mayor, they can be like in charge. And if they control the guards, they're gonna be like working for them. Like you
Hmm.
give your players kind of it explains the stakes without you having to be like, oh, well, like the 9 crystals of Urn actually dictate the reality of this. Like you don't have to explain the stakes, they understand it. And also it's a lot easier for them to grasp in a way. It's like, oh, how are we going to mess with this? How are we going to stop it? um because like they're going to have to like learn, because if you're talking like some kind of esoteric setting nonsense, they're gonna be like, oh well, like we'll have to find out how we can mess out with it. But if you keep them in pretty grounded terms, like, oh, like if he needs to kill the mayor, we can either like protect the mayor, there's got to be an assassin. Like you're giving them like leads effectively for how they want to move the story forward, um which I think is important, because if a character driven decision is always more impressive and fun to me than me being like, well, you kind of have to go to this place and do this thing, like
Absolutely.
direction. Yeah.
I feel like, okay, that was another one. Character motivation, I feel like, yeah, is
Yeah.
critical in like giving that, and that ties into making it personal and like even definable and stuff where it's like, oh, okay, I understand this. Yeah, I you so nailed that. I love that so much. The character motivation. We
Yeah.
actually, oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, 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 go ahead.
No, you go first.
I think that's one of the big takeaways from playing games that aren't Dungeon Dragons. Because I do think there is like a
Mm,
big tide in Dungeon Dragons, just from like the big media examples that we have, where it's very story driven, and that story is typically woven by the DM with minor influence from the players. But other games have a much bigger like they want the players to be more involved. Like Blades in the Dark, you're kind of writing the story pretty much as the dungeon mat or the runner or whoever. I can't remember, the keeper. Can't remember the person
I
that
haven't played
runs
it, so I don't
Blades in the
know,
Dark.
but you know that person.
Yeah, that person, the person running it, the facilitator, because they're kind of throwing out a situation. You have a pretty wide purview to kind of like, this is how I'm going to handle it. You have like flashbacks. You have a bunch of different tools at your disposal, narratively speaking, that you can alter the story. And I think that was one of my biggest takeaways from that is like, if a player comes up with an idea, they're really going to want to run with it. If
Hmm.
they might run with what you have to say, but they're really going to enjoy what they have to say. Um, so that's where I got that.
Yeah, and I think that that also rewards players for being invested and for
Yes,
thinking creatively. Uh,
exactly, exactly.
and that's what you want. You want them to be to go, oh, I did a thing and it worked. That makes me want to do more thing because then that might work and then I can do more thing.
Exactly. I think in terms of like player motivation, like it's one of the hardest things to create as a dungeon master, like meaningful choices that engage the players and carry the story forward in
Hmm.
a way that's like controllable, or at least like maybe not controllable, but directorable, like something you can handle and facilitate.
Yeah.
It's extremely tough. And it's easier if you kind of trick the players into helping you out with it. Like, that's
Absolutely.
my big belief.
Oh yeah, tricking the players into doing things for you is like the best way to DM. Like
Yes.
I straight up just tell my players that. I'm like, look, I don't feel like I'm building a story. I very much think of it as whatever the system is, it is a cooperative storytelling event. Like
Mm.
I want them to be involved. If we're making a backstory and they want to be from the floating sky pirates of Cool World, okay, sure. Like we'll make that a part of the world and work it in. And now that's
Oh
a
yeah.
place and we can have things and now I can call back to that. And when I need some sky pirates. Hey, perfect. I know what I can use. Like I want them to be involved heavily in that.
Exactly.
It's
Player buy-in, I think, is just so huge.
mm-hmm. And that really helps with a memorable antagonist. Like if they're invested in the world and you can, threaten a part of that world, threaten a character in that world, threaten something, yeah, it's way more invested.
Yeah.
We have a few questions, so if you have something directly to go to on this, we can go to it. But if not, there are some really good questions. On topic,
I'm down for some
yes.
questions.
ADD not strong enough today yet. We still have like quite a bit, so we might we might wander way off. Keeper Dace asked, related to long-lasting antagonists, how often do you reveal them? How do you make their continued survival believable, making them run away, survive death, etc.? Ooh, so like you want to have something where your players are going to engage with them multiple times, not just one climactic battle and
Mhm.
then, you know, they win or lose. That's a great question.
I think there's a couple of ways to do that. I think it depends on if your villain is way more powerful than your players as they currently are. It can be pretty
Yes.
easy to have that kind of like back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I mean, they're just going to have way more hit points. They're going to have spells that can basically like stop the players almost immediately. And I think that is a good way. If they're like level 3 and you have like a level 10 villain, like a CR 10 villain, there's not much like they can make a dent, but they can't kill them before they could get away realistically. So I think that's one way to do it. You just make your monster, make your BBG just that powerful. And also, I think there is a fun aspect of it, like creating situations in which your players don't have access to violence is also an interesting situation. I think as like a popular media example, if you think about like the introduction of the Briarwoods in the Critical Role, like TV show or the actual play, they kind of tried to do violence, but they got covered in two ways. And I think, in the actual play it was kind of a little fast and loose how they got away so quickly because it was obvious that Matt did not want to do this second. But something about a ball of some kind or a state dinner where if you were to draw like weapons and like try and fight somebody, like there might be some huge consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Or tying the lives of a favorite NPC to the survival of the BBG. Like, somebody got kidnapped and you really can't take on the BBG
Ooh,
until you find that favorite NPC. Um, but also, yeah,
absolutely.
I do think that people have a tendency to like they don't they don't want their BBGs to run away in a fight. And I'm always pro like once a BB if it is like not some like primal force of nature, but if it's like an intelligent human or like humanoid,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna run away if they're like, oh, this is not gonna work in my favor. It's time to go.
Yeah, that was one of my points was they'll have a contingency. And on your
Yeah,
point from
contingency.
earlier of making them capable, that like, oh, okay, I want them to fight. They if
Mm,
they're losing, here's how they're gonna get out of it or attempt to get out of it.
yes,
Uh, and yeah, that's a smart thing. If they are intelligent, which they probably are, if they are capable, contingencies are important, and you can fudge them too. Like what
exactly.
on one of those, what Jack says, this is lesson 27 on why it's okay to lie to your players. Like, build a baseline contingency and then adapt it to the situation
Hmm.
so that you
I
can
think
do
that's
a little bit of retroactive fiddling of like, haha, yes, you did use fire, but this was my anti-fire thing because it's made of
exactly.
this. That was established as being fire resistant. Haha.
Exactly. I think that's important. I think one of the limiting factors too, especially if you're dealing with like the BBEG is kind of like a lich or some other super intelligent, extremely um cunning enemy. You as a dungeon master, like on your best day, might not be able to do like algebra, but your BBEG could. So you do have to give them like a little bit of that Deus Ex Machina, so it feels like they're intelligent. I mean, I think the hardest way to weave that is to make it feel earned to a certain degree and not just like a cheap trick.
Hmm.
But that is the gamble that you make when you're doing it. It's like how do I make this land in a way that doesn't seem like I'm just cheating my characters out of an easy win? But I think that's also important too. I've seen a couple of systems. I haven't tried many of them, but it's like almost like plot device legendary resistances. Um, they seem like they were like dead to rights going to get him, but they be able to pull like one trick out of their sleeve and teleport away or do something. And they only have a certain number of those, so you can't just do it infinitely.
Mm.
So the players, if they're really smart and they're really on it, they will eventually get the BBG. Just not this second. It'll be maybe another encounter from now, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Uh, a few more, because another note I had was also situations where they either can't use violence or would have to deal with severe consequences if they did. Our Slack message, all right. Uh, is yeah, anything where it's like political, like you were talking about, being in a castle or being, at some sort of banquet or event where, yeah, you can't just pull steel here. If you start slinging spells, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter who it's at. This is not acceptable. Um, so anything where it's like, okay, maybe they'd pull it off, maybe, and then they would rot in prison. Is it worth it?
Exactly.
Like, and give them that choice. Like, they could attempt it,
Hmm.
and maybe they'll pull it off, and then they have to make a new character. Um, and then
Exactly.
and then you've got
Or
a room full of people that now hate this party, and that can become a new bad guy.
exactly. And then it can like that causes a huge like sea change in the campaign. You were invited guests by the king. You saw some count that you know to be a necromancer and that you needed to kill him. You did kill him, but now, or maybe you tried to, may or may not have been successful. He could be a lich for all you know. And then all of a sudden, the tempo of the campaign is you're on the run,
Yeah,
or you need to escape from jail. You're on the lam. You've kind of turned into the A team, on the run from mysterious government forces, which I think is a lot of fun. I think the interesting option is always more fun than the safe option,
I
which I
agree.
think happens a lot.
Yeah, totally agree. And yeah, if that's the game people want to play, again, I very much think of it as a active participation game. Like, if that's the game they want to play, all right, the big bad is not this person. The big bad is you're running. Like, awesome. Um
This is how we find out the BBG is in fact immortal.
yeah. It's your past catching up to you. That's the big bad. Um Another one is like for power, they don't have to be super powerful. They can be part of a larger party.
Mhm.
I had one group of mercenaries that were a thorn in my players' heels for one campaign because they had more members. Like, they were power
Yeah,
level about the same, but they had like two, maybe three times members total. And if they wanted to group up, they knew they were going to lose that fight. Like, they
exactly.
might
Yeah, yeah.
take one or two of them out, and then they got to deal with all the rest of them in retaliation.
Yeah. So I think kind of to boil down a lot of what we said, I think if you want them to interact, but not necessarily like either your players get killed or the BBG get killed like the first interaction, make the stakes so high of like choosing violence that it doesn't seem like an attractive option anymore.
Hmm.
Give them a convenient, much easier way to handle this threat. Like they could just badmouth the BBG to the other people in the court. They could not engage. They could try and like circumvent. They can try and find dirt on the BBG. There's a lot of non-violent ways that could be just as damaging for somebody with like very lofty goals than
Yeah,
like a slap to the face.
absolutely. Uh, Another one more way I have written down of like how to interact, like, is write letters. Like, have the big bad write them a letter and send it to them, and that, you know, maybe even when they're out in the wilderness, something still delivers it. That they're just
Yeah.
like, ha, ha, I can do that. Uh, if anyone has, I don't know if you or anyone has read, "This Is How We Lose the Time War."
Yes, I have. I've read that. It's a great book. I loved it.
So good.
Yeah,
That whole book is letters from one time traveling operative from one group to a time traveling operative in another group, and how they're stopping each other's plans by changing timelines.
it's
And
really cool.
yeah, it's a brilliant book. Um, and yeah, the way they do letters is so personal and so just mean and delightful. Oh,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
that's a great way. The name is "This Is How We Lose the Time War." It's a novella. I think it's like, so it's like 20 something words. I have the audiobook and it's like 2.5 hours, so I know it's not a full novel.
It's it's a short one. It's like a great beach read. You could finish that in a couple of hours, depending on your reading speed, because it's mostly like letter format, so it's a little more spaced out than a
Mm-hmm.
normal novel too. So it's a very quick read.
Let me make sure I have this title right. Yes, I do. Okay.
Do you think that is correct? Yeah.
Oh,
It
this
should
is
have like a
how
picture of a blue
you
jay and a
lose.
cardinal on it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's the Wikipedia link. This is how you lose the time war. Sorry. Had one word wrong in that. But yeah, absolutely brilliant novel. Book. Novella. Whatever.
Thing.
It's, whatever it is brilliant. Uh yeah, that was a really good question. If Keeper Dace, if that doesn't answer your question, let us know and we'll try again. Or keep blabbing on about something.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Uh and then Ben is Bend is I always get your name wrong. I'm sorry, Bed. Uh I say I just try and blur it. It's a name,
Bedinus?
Bedinus. I say it wrong.
Bedinus?
I'm too dyslexic. There's too many
Bedensis.
I's and S's, and they just
Bedensis, I think.
Bedensis.
Bedensis? Like Bedensins? Bedensins?
Call me Bed, I insist. All right,
Hey,
Bed.
Bed.
If you haven't noticed, I've tried to blur, like, verbally blur your name whenever I say it. I'm like, Ben says, and then like just keep going. But I'm just calling myself on it now. It says, how do you make twist villains work without the players seeing through the ruse / figuring out the twist early? Hot take. Well, I do want to answer that, but hot take. That's okay if they figure the twist out early. They'll feel good about that probably.
I don't, yeah, I do think there is a, I do think there is a too early for that. And that's like when they first meet. If the cat's out of the bag, the second they meet, it does feel bad as a dungeon master. But
Yes.
I do think as long as you like a session or two, you can feel kind of good about that. It's hard too because like if this was a book, like one of the players would have a really hard suspicion about this person, and the
Mm-hmm.
rest be like, "Oh no, they're fine," and then slowly they'd come around to it. But more times than not, they'd be like, "Oh, this is an interesting character. I wonder if they're the bad guy." Just because the meme of it exists so much, that it's like such a trope. It's hard to get around. I think the problem comes out that people don't do enough of a heel turn. They want to seed it a little too early.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're going to seed it, you need to seed it in a way that it's to things that have not happened yet. Um, they might talk about a certain event or ask a question that might link up to something that has not happened yet. But if they like, if a house blew up and then they like make a question, it's like, oh, houses go up in flames all the time. Like if they start like making little jokes like the same session something happened, they're gonna get suspicion. So I think the slow burn is key, and you take what you think is a slow burn and slow it even more down. Keep it so vague in the beginning. Do not give them a reason to, because the meme of it is so pervasive. Like they have to basically almost be proven to be not the one before you can actually start showing some signs that they are. At least
Hmm.
it's my opinion. I don't know if you have a different take on it.
No, I think that's a really good one. Like, absolutely slow burn it. Red herrings also really great for like, oh,
Yes.
okay, well, this person's making those jokes, but they're not going to be a thing. They're not going to be the bad guy. Another possible hot take again. I think one of the strengths is that this is a cooperative, adaptable storytelling, uh, whatever storytelling event, game, whatever, and that you don't have to know. You should have multiple options, and then
Hmm.
you can
That's also, I
choose
think that's fair.
whichever one you want. I was doing one game where the first session, someone the players knew got murdered, and there were four
Hmm.
prime suspects. Did I know which one of them it was? No. I gave them all motive. I gave them all opportunity. I gave them all what they needed for them to suspect them. And as the game was going on, depending on who they gravitated towards, how the story unfolded, what the players latched onto and wanted to do, that helped shape who the actual murderer
The
was.
Have you ever played Brindlewood Bay?
No.
That's effectively Brindlewood Bay. It's a powered by the apocalypse system, very light. It's really like powered by the apocalypse of the fact that you roll 2d6 basically, or several d6 at a time. But it's very similar. It is like Golden Girls meets a little bit of Cthulhu meets Murder She Wrote, and the whole idea is as the person running it, you're given like the each, I guess, mission, campaign, murder. It basically fits on a single page. It gives you how like some information on how the person dies, and then it gives you a list of characters and some quirks about them, and then it gives you a huge list of clues. And depending on who they're investigating and the context they're investigating, you kind of give those clues, and it might kind of lean towards one individual, and typically who they kind of peg as being the bad guy and they keep on investigating, they'll find more information about that person being the bad guy. And of course, you as the person running it, you can make them a red herring, you can even murder them. You have a lot of tools you like to kind of like flip that on its head. But it's very similar. Like there is no, in their murder mystery, there is no set murderer. It's until they discover enough clues to kind of like peg it on somebody. So I really like that. I like that as an idea of having like keeping it not so set in stone. I think I was talking to somebody about what was the other game? What is the name? Candela Obscura, and they were talking about like it was Spencer, the one of the writers. Whoops. And they were talking about the implementation of something they're calling quantum clues because they kind of got the idea from Brindlewood Bay, like clues that don't necessarily have any meaning or context until you find them and give them meaning and context. And I
Mm,
really like that.
that that's cool. I like that. I mean, clearly, I like that. I did that in my own game, not knowing.
Yeah,
Not,
yeah. No, that's what I was like, oh, you must play Brindlewood Bay
yeah.
because that's like exactly what it is. But yeah, I highly recommend of the games that have taught me to be like to think about games a little bit differently and be a more like on my game like dungeon master. Brindlewood Bay is up there because it keeps you're role playing the entire time. You're given all these clues and you have to find a way to kind of contextualize them and make them make sense in what the players are doing in that second. It makes you so much sharper for running what I think is to be a slightly slower paced game like Dungeons and Dragons, where you don't have to worry about that all the time. You have some time to breathe. Um, it's a ton of fun.
That sounds cool. Lord or Zon Lord, bring it up. I won't say names because I feel like that's spoilers. But someone from an anime doing something specifically to convince someone it's not them, and then later finding out, ha, it was them, and this is how they pulled that off. That's a good one. Like, yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
get them to convince. If you've ever played like social deduction games, like
Mhm.
First Class Trouble or Among Us or whatever, where it's like, oh yeah, you make the alliance specifically. You don't shoot somebody. You do throw
Yes.
the other person on your team under the bus because you want that trust so you can long term con them.
Exactly. I think that's just very and that's used a lot in movies too. When there is like a surprise villain, it's been this villain all along. They often show that villain like they have somebody dead to rights, and they save them because the plan has not come to a point where they need to be eliminated yet. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
I think that's a good way. Like if you want your BBG to stay hidden, put them in a situation where they can like save the party pretty early on, or
Yeah.
like not even necessarily the whole party, but just a single person. Maybe they're getting like maybe they got captured by somebody and they're there to stop it from whatever's happening. I think that's a good way to also garner a lot of trust.
Absolutely. Uh, Also, back on another question. Great way to have your BBG communicating with them. They don't know it's them.
Yes.
Yeah, I because if your plan is to do a bad thing, you want allies for as long as possible, and if they are
Exactly.
your allies, you want to hold on to that until what you said. You get to the point where it's like, all right, you're worth more to me dead than alive now. But yesterday, no, you were so worth it
Yeah.
alive.
And I think too, for a good plot twist villain, like the reason that they might be keeping him around is because there is something that the party has, or an ability that they have, or something about them that makes them not expendable, and they might want to use them. I think that's like the biggest twist. They do this like big favor. They've been tricked into doing something that maybe cost them a lot of effort, time, maybe NPCs, resources. And then it turns out the person that they've trusted then goes, "Oh, that's great. Now I've got everything I wanted. I don't need you anymore," and then teleports away. Like they'll go to the end of the world to find them and get revenge. I promise you.
Yeah, that's a good one. Another way is you could have like for the twist, um, have the BBEG be sad about it. Like have them
Yeah.
be like, you know what, I I did fall for you guys. Like you know what, I did consider you friends, but this is more important to me. Like I don't want to do this to you. And then
Yeah.
have
Always.
that moment.
Mhm. I guess yeah. Then it kind of opens up the party to be a little bit hesitant to really go for the kill if they have an earlier opportunity. Maybe I mean, it depends on how like dramatic the people you're playing with and how like I guess how much they're into like the kind of the stage play of it all. But they might that gives them like a character reason, maybe not to be so dogged in their like eventual takedown of them. They might have some remorse for doing it, and that can lead to some interesting character moments later on as
Yeah.
well.
Ooh, also, oh, just a fun thing to do later. Like if the BBG, like takes out a town or something that one of the players' families are in, that player's family specifically untouched. Like every
Mm,
house around them burned down. Theirs spotless. Being
yeah,
like,
yeah.
there's like that person still is like, I don't want to hurt you. I'm sorry. And like purposefully going out of their way.
That is fun. I actually really like that as because there's the veiled threat being like I could have killed your family, and then two, it's like is this a veiled threat or is this like actually being kind because they like still is friendly towards me? I think it can be read a lot of different ways, and that makes it very fun.
Yeah. Bed, did that answer your question? If it didn't, let us know and we'll try again. Giving BBG regret and sadness is great. Oh yeah, like make them.
Oh yeah,
That's another thing. Is like make them relatable. Make them high slack. Make them uh, have feelings. Have their own regrets.
yeah,
Have them like they should be more three-dimensional. Their only goal shouldn't be, and I need to write my name on the moon. Like, that's a goal, but that shouldn't be
So,
their
yeah,
only goal. It's a little Chairface Chippendale
make them
shout out there.
a little three-dimensional. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is the same thing that's good for players, like you, and good for
Mhm.
characters, like PCs, where it's like, yeah, your goal is I need revenge because X, but like if that is everything that you were going for, you're gonna be a not as fun character. It's gonna be not as fun to
Yeah.
play. It's gonna be not as like interesting to interact with. You want those layers.
Yeah, I've seen some discourse online, and I hate discourse, but this is interesting discourse where it's the nuanced villain just versus like the purely evil villain. And I think it's not so much like two separate circles as much as it could be a Venn diagram. You can have a truly evil villain that your players desperately want to kill, but they can also have some nuance to them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
um, and I think that that's always the line in the sand when people talk about it on TikTok. It's like, no, I don't want a nuanced villain. I just want like Darth Vader. And I was like, well, Darth Vader is kind of a nuanced villain.
Yeah, like he's fighting his children like that.
Yeah, there is some nuance to that. He also like stops being a villain kind of at the end. Like like I think there is I think people kind of confuse a conflicting villain, like a
Mm,
villain with conflicting reasons versus one that has like very clear-cut evil reasons. Um, which honestly, I think either one are fine, and you can also have multiple. Like some of them might be like them wanting to take over, like or wanting to burn a kingdom down, could be extremely valid if they were like I don't know, imprisoned in that country for like 20 years or something like that
right.
wrongfully. Kind of valid for that.
Yeah.
But wanting to turn everybody into an undead ghoul, not as valid. You can mix and match with those.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next one because I don't see a thing from that. But so we're gonna assume we did it. Uh, so Discordia, hey Discordia, says that I've been playing MAT of late. Oh, Mage the Ascension. That's right. We're talking about
Okay.
the techromancy, techocracy. I think,
Technocracy,
yeah,
yeah.
is a great as great as an antagonist in an abstract sense. But when they black bag someone, that's when you sit up and pay attention. Yeah, that's a really good way to have a
Yeah.
overarching, huge, you can't really deal with it. It's so big villain become very personal.
Everybody hates the technocracy. I've met nobody that loves the technocracy other than as a good villain. I had the technocracy came into play. I was in a Vampire the Masquerade game. And the technocracy they weren't like mainline villains, but they were like pulling the strings. And it was like so obvious that's like, oh, these guys are bad. It's like these guys suck, but actually like hardcore.
uh, Deep's bringing up a good point. I like both. I'm all about nuanced villains where you can see where they're coming from. I also love an evil fuckhead who just loves being evil. Yeah, that's fun too sometimes.
Yeah, you just got to look at which version of Gary Oldman you want. Is it going to be nuanced Gary Oldman, or is it going to be just like mustache twirling like Gary Oldman? I think there's nothing wrong with having a scene chewing villain that just is the biggest trope of tropes for being like a bad guy. I think that's also a lot of fun for a player. Um, there is I often say this because people try to make dragons not dragons so hard. They want to like avoid like, oh, this is Dungeons and Dragons. I don't like fighting it's so tropey or it's like been done so much. It's like there is something intensely fun as a D&D player fighting a dragon inside of a dungeon. Like it I haven't met a single person that's like, oh man, I gotta fight a dragon. Like they might be scared, but it's like, oh, this my god, this is so cool. And I think people just get a little too artsy with it sometimes. Um, there's, I think there's popcorn D&D, which is just a ton of fun. It's a lot of big bangs, a lot of explosions, and there can also be like more nuanced, like artsy D&D, and they can be in the same campaign at different times.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, so I think people try a little too hard to not have like something that's like, I guess, tropey, which I think, tropes are fun.
Yeah, they absolutely can be. And really, it's a matter of like moderation. Like, you
Mm,
want a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Some, like, if you're all, everything is sympathetic and everybody needs to take 30 minutes to explain why what they're doing is justified, but only through them, and they understand that you may not see it. That, like, if every character is like that, that's going to get old. And if every character is like, here's my alignment and I will only act this way, that also gets old.
yeah. Speakeasy, so Leon the Professional or The Fifth Element. That is exactly what I was thinking, actually, the differences between the two. You've hit the nail on the head with that one. Which version of Gary Oldman are we doing right
That's really funny. All right, we definitely got some off-topic questions. Oh, ooh, okay. Well, while staying on topic, Zonlord with the 50 bits. Thanks. Saying the reason cinematic Thanos was so engaging was because of his regrets in seeking balance and the horror on his face when he had to make certain action to achieve the Soul Infinity Gem, which I haven't seen, but I think I know what that scene is. Um,
now?
yeah, that like, I think that is what helps humanize and like allow you to understand and sympathize in a way of understanding, not necessarily agreeing. And I
Mm,
that absolutely I hear get conflated, where it's like sympathizing means you agree. It's like, no, like you
I
understand why they did
understand.
it, yeah,
Mhm.
but you don't have to agree with it.
And I think there's also something a little bit scarier. There is something scarier about a villain that understands what their actions are and that it like affects them in a bad way and that they know they're probably doing something wrong, but they do it anyway, versus a villain that seemingly has no moral compass. So it's not even really a choice at all. They're just doing it. So I think that made Thanos a scarier villain. I think like if you took Thanos in the movies and then kind of subtracted some of his like proselytizing out a bit of it, and then also just made him just a badass the entire time, I think
Mm-hmm.
he would be less scary in the narrative.
Yeah.
He comes off as a zealot, a conflicted zealot in the movie, and like conflicted zealots are kind of in real life are extremely scary. Um, so I think it's another way to add like a lot of depth to a character.
Mm-hmm. Also, the confliction, talking about, you know, good bad guys, and one of the things we talked about earlier is like
Mhm.
that gives players hope of like, maybe we can change, like maybe
Mhm.
they won't go through with this if we
I see
talk to them
conflict
enough.
in you.
Yeah, like that, maybe there's another way to go around it, because the best horror comes from, there has to be a level of hope. If there's no
Yeah,
hope,
yeah,
then it's just like, well, this is what we do, and it's whatever. But when there's like, okay, well, but what if we're wrong? What if there is a better way to do this?
exactly. I think it's very true. Um, it's the difference between I think that kind of what makes the difference between like a good horror movie versus like, for lack of a better word, torture porn or something like that.
Yeah.
There's no real hope in one of them, but there's hope that some of them might get out in the other, and that's what like it's what engages you, what makes you a little afraid. It's like, oh, you sympathize and empathize with these characters. They're in danger now, but they could get away. Like, what's going to happen with them? I think that's the difference between like a really engaging scary movie and a non-engaging scary movie.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, totally agree with you on that. You you want that push and pull, that peaks
mhm.
and valleys. Like, you have to have that. If it's 100% all the time, it doesn't work. If it's zero, it doesn't work. And
It's gotta go up. You gotta ramp up and down and up and down, up and down.
yeah, which is why I mean, I love horror comedy, and why I think horror and comedy are like parallel things for completely different
Mirror
reasons.
universes of each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they both have that, like, we need the height, and then we need the drop off in order to build back up and then go back down, and like they both roll in the same frequencies,
Mhm.
just completely different subject matter.
I think that's how comedy, because like comedy can work in horror movies, and it doesn't even really
Yeah.
subtract that much from the horror. I think it's because they're riding that kind of same wave, and you're using comedy as the decompression down spike versus the high tension, murdering that happens upwards. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's a solid point.
I also, and I will try not to just turn the rest of this into me talking about horror comedy and how great it is. But one of the things that I do think works really well in horror comedy is laughing lowers your defenses, and it makes it
Hmm.
that much easier to
He's a little
get
more
a scare
vulnerable.
out of you because you can't be like this when you're chuckling.
Exactly.
A, the back of a
The Toxic Avenger.
the back of a button just fell off of one of these pins, and I
Oh
don't
no.
know which one. So I'm gonna get stabbed later, and we're all gonna find out together which which one it was. Yeah, that's which key one, like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Uh,
Yeah, that's a great
yes,
example.
such a great
It's such a good movie.
movie. Yeah, Keeper Days, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Yes, exactly. Thank you. You're right there with me. Yeah, like that ability of like there's hope that like okay, maybe no more of them will die.
Yeah.
Like there's the hope of well maybe they'll get out of this. Like there's hope of well
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
they'll like there's so much of it that gives you that level of like this might work. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, but it could. And then new situations to bring new jokes and new horror. So good.
Yeah, Drew. What are your impressions of Peter Dinklage Toxic Avenger? I did not know that Peter Dinklage was doing Toxic
I
Avenger.
also didn't know that. Is that real? That sounds fake.
That
I'm
does sound like an
curious.
AI made that.
You're like, what is property and someone famous? Headline.
Peter Dinklage Toxic
Deep saying horror
Avenger.
and comedy are closely related. That's why so many comedians slash comedy actors move over to horror and do great at it. Yeah, like there's a lot of parallels in though. Uh,
Well, he was in the 2023 Toxic Avenger. I did not know that.
I didn't know there was a 2023 Toxic
I didn't
Avenger.
know there was either.
All right, well, learning so much today.
I'll have to look that up.
All right. So a few off-topic questions, but I think are good questions. So I do want to ask them. True Mandalorian asked, "What should you do if your players catch you mid-game in a lie as the GM? What
Ooh.
was it a lie, or were you revealing the truth?"
Yeah. I think, yeah, it really depends on the context. Like,
Absolutely.
what were you lying about? Was this you, the dungeon master, lying about something? Or this is an NPC lying? Does this create a like plot hole versus not?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it depends on the context a lot. Do you have an example?
Yeah, True Mando. If you have an example, please share.
Tremendo, do you have an example?
Because I agree,
Because
it's very much situational. So go ahead.
yeah, it's very situational. I'm always of the I'm always, if somebody catches me in a lie, it's like, well, I am not lying. The character might be lying. I I'm telling the truth in terms of what it's supposed to be in the game, not necessarily. I guess it depends if we're talking something like mechanic, like I guess it really boils down to like, is this something mechanical versus like
Right.
story? Like if you're like, oh like, oh no, this only had like 100 hit points, but I actually gave it like 150 hit points because y'all were gonna kill it in one round. That kind of lie. Oh, let's see here. Not exactly.
Oh, okay, yeah. You just mentioned earlier,
Oh,
agreed with Jack, how it's okay to lie
it's
to your
okay.
players. I was wondering if you could
Um,
expand on that. The consequence would be,
I
oh yeah,
think
oh boy, so much.
it's less like a direct lie, and it's more like you're telling a fib, but more of like obfuscation and like lies of omission. Like I think depending on how you want to build up your big bad evil guy, especially if you're dealing with like an extremely intelligent big bad evil guy, like if we're talking or gal or goon, if you're dealing with like a lich that has like a super high intelligence, I think they're 22 intelligence, they're one of the smartest people in the entire world. And I mean, you may be a really smart dungeon master, but you're not the smartest dungeon master in the world, especially that lives in this world. So giving them like tricks basically where you can kind of compensate for that. Like you as a dungeon master are not that smart, but this person is like Sherlock Holmes level. How do I create little tricks or obfuscations that give me breathing room so that they can have like backup plans and um, maybe have prepared for certain events, things like that. I think that's the difference. It's not so much like a malicious lie as much as you're trying to be more truthful to the character, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's an important one, especially when you're dealing with like if you're expecting this villain to be around for a good chunk of the campaign, and there's supposed to be this world-ending threat that has survived hundreds of years, but you forgot that you gave the players this like coin that can kill anything in 1 second if they flip it just the right way at session 5, but we were on session 50. Like there's a bunch of things that you just kind of have to account for, I think, to a certain degree. And by doing that, you just need to keep things very vague, which I think is close to a lie of like omission almost,
Mm,
if that makes sense.
yeah. I think, yeah, for expanding on the lie, a thing that Jack and I talk about a lot is like lying about lying about a monster's HP. If the thing should die earlier than the HP says, but thematically it's a good moment for it to die, hey, guess what? It's at 0 HP. If
Yeah.
thematically it would suck to be one-shotted and like no one's going to be satisfied with that, okay, boost, whoop, it got a few levels. Good thing it had those extra levels of fighter or whatever. Whoo, it survived that
Mhm.
attack. Like, so something that works thematically. You can kind of massage those numbers a bit.
Mhm.
Um, Lying, what I said earlier with like, okay, you have 4 suspects that only one of them is the murderer. Theoretically, could be all 4. That scenario earlier, you are leaving out kind of what you were saying, lie of omission. Like you're leaving out that there's that who it is fluid. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
I think that's
go ahead.
I think that's important because if you don't give yourself a little wiggle room, you leave yourself open to some really unsatisfying stuff, like story turns and beats. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like that's a thing in other storytelling, you have editing. So like you're writing a story and you get to a climax and you go, "Oh, I forgot. I did give my players the coin, or the characters do have the coin
Mhm.
of flip it just the right way and something dies." Okay, hang on. I need to go back and edit it so that's not the solution to this, and then it is narratively unsatisfying.
Mhm.
So you have to do that on the fly in real time when you're playing it in the game. Another thing is like changing what we mentioned earlier, like changing the escape plan. So this is how you
Yeah.
thought they were going to get out of it. The players did a thing to counter that. It's like, all right, here's the new escape plan and how they get out. Reward the players for doing that. Like if they counter you, they get extra items, or the narratively the uh, BBEG is now in a worse position than they were in before
Mhm.
because of that thing they did. And they know it. The BBEG knows it. The players know it. They can celebrate and all that. Like, let them know that that's a big deal. Um, like, oh, things aren't going the way you want them to. Awesome. Time for backup to arrive. Did you really
Yeah.
have that fully planned out? No, but it's an okay lie. So those kinds
Yeah.
of lies.
I think it's important to do that. Also, I think the converse side though, the thing you as a dungeon master you have to keep in mind is like how do I kind of save myself a little bit here, but then also still make it rewarding and feel like a win to a certain degree to the players. So yeah, I think what you're saying before that's always it's like a balancing act.
Mm-hmm.
What are they losing? What are they gaining? Oh, we got raided.
We
Howdy.
did. Hey, howdy to y'all, and welcome. Thanks for the raid.
The True Mandalorian, I think, oh, you said that makes sense.
Okay, good.
hopefully that kind of makes sense in what we were talking about. It's not, I mean, it is technically lying, I think, lying to your players, but it's
Yeah.
more omission than anything else. And you're just kind of allowing for some wiggle room
Mm-hmm.
on your end, especially when dealing with like something that's supposed to be very powerful. You want it to be rewarding and feel right when it's actually taken out.
Absolutely. Incarnadine with a good point. The thing that has always bothered me is the omniscient villain. They can be beaten, or they cannot be beaten, only delayed. Yeah, like that's a
Mm,
thing. And in your lies, you're massaging the truth. Um, be aware of that. That you're not creating something that's undefeatable. That's just being delayed. That no matter what they do, oh, they always get away and it's fine. And the next part of their plan goes off of that hitch.
mm,
No, if they do things, they should be able to see how it is affecting the villain, especially if they get away.
yeah. There has to be, yeah, like in the same way victory can sometimes come with a cost, like loss needs to come with a cost for the villain as well. They might
Yeah.
lose, and it can be something trivial, like relatively trivial too. It could be like a weapon they were using, it could be standing they had in like the local government. Like people might know more about them. There has to be some kind of feeling of, because I hate the idea of symbolic victories and losses in Dungeons and Dragons. I think they happen a lot where you win, but nothing really seems to happen
Mm-hmm.
afterwards that like affects the world. So you have to make it stick and you have to make it meaningful. I think that's the true, and it's like a very hard way. It's very hard to do too, because I mean, especially if we're giving examples, like there's just so many cases and worlds and different ways this can happen. You really have to just kind of has to feel right to you as a dungeon master when you're doing it, I think, and to the players. It's a really hard moving target, but you got to try really hard to hit it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Uh, so there you go, Mando. If that doesn't answer your question, let us know, and then we'll just keep yapping about it. But while we're waiting, it's Zwoofer, Swphyr, Zwoofer. Tell me how to pronounce that because that's great. It says any tips for someone running their first DM session one shot. Ooh,
Oh,
congratulations on joining the club.
congratulations. You're going to have a lot of fun. The biggest thing, um, even if you're just doing a one shot, doing like, and you could do it on Discord, you can do it like 20 minutes before you start the game, do a quick session zero.
Oh yeah.
Um, explain, like help everybody, make sure everybody's on the same page, make sure everybody is introduced to everybody and they know each other's names, making sure everybody knows like the do's and don'ts at the table, like
Mm-hmm.
homebrew rules, all that kind of the stuff that you want to get out of the way just to make sure it runs a little bit quicker. You can sell the setting and the story a little bit to them and kind of describe what you're trying to achieve. And it doesn't have to be anything like long-winded. Like I did a one shot for a charity game, and it was really just we went through some quick rules and like whatever homebrew rules that I have and they're usually very skim. And then I was like, this they wanted a Christmas themed charity one shot, and I was like, I kind of just laid it out really quickly for them. I explained like they're going to be at the North Pole, or they're probably going to go to the North Pole. There's some evil stuff going on, kind of giving the tone of the adventure. I think that's a great one.
Oh,
I'm such a
absolutely.
huge proponent of session zeros. They just make the game
Yes.
easier to run as a dungeon master.
Yes.
Um, I don't know if I have another one, but I won't. I don't want to do if you got one.
Uh, I I do. So we can go back and forth. The hardest thing to do, be loose and have fun. Like
Mm,
I think of the DM, you are the arbiter of fun. Like players can often come at come at you and come to the table with as much as you're bringing to them. So if you're doing outrageous accents and like wild characters and having a blast, like they can come up to your level. And they might not come all the way up there. They might be like, "Oh, I'm a little reserved. I'm just gonna come up here." But if
yeah,
you're very, reserved and you're okay, oh, this person, they speak very quickly. Hi, how's it go? Like if you're not living it up, it makes it harder for them to live it up. And the goal is to have fun. So like that is
Yeah.
hard to do. It is not a just don't worry, don't think about it and you'll be fine. But it's worth trying and worth like
Yeah.
embarrassing yourself going over the top to pull off.
Yeah, and that's a great thing about a one shot. You kind of have the freedom to do that without having to keep it up for the foreseeable future. It's going to be maybe one. It's going to be once, maybe twice if you don't finish everything.
Hmm.
The other big piece of advice I have for first time dungeon masters is something that I got hit with really hard, and it is you don't have to be perfect.
Yes.
There is no such thing as perfect, and you as a dungeon master have this kind of unique perspective where you are almost preeminently aware of the flaws, and I'm going to air quotes flaws that you or other people are making. Because you kind of have this story written out, you have all these expectations. You are the only person coming to the table with those expectations of what's going to happen.
Hmm.
And if you misspeak or maybe screw up on a piece of lore, or they didn't take the path that you think was going to be the path they took, and now your next page of notes is useless, just take a deep breath. Know that they have not there no mistake has been made. They have no idea if you messed up the lore because they have no idea what the lore is until you tell them.
Yeah.
And you can always, fix things in after the fact, and like, oh no, you got a wrong piece of lore from this old document. There's so many tools at your at disposal to handle those things. So don't try to be perfect. Nobody knows the script because, and you don't even really know the script because it is yet to be written. You just have um, kind of an outline to a certain degree. So don't take it too seriously. Don't don't punish yourself for not being perfect. Just have fun. I think that was my big thing. It's like, oh no, I messed up this lore. I have, this huge page of thing I was supposed to read out, but I used the wrong god's name, all that stuff. And my players, after the fact, days, months, years when we talked about it, like no clue that I messed up because why would they?
Yeah. Like it's an excellent point. They don't have those expectations. They don't have those knowledge. They don't have that knowledge. And if they're anything like me, they're gonna forget half the things you say anyway because they got a bad memory.
Exactly.
So it's okay.
And the brain is a wonderful thing. It'll make it all work kind of on the back end. Unless there's like, I mean, most plot holes, people miss plot holes all the time in movies, cinema, um, TV. It's not until somebody like goes through it and then points at each of them like cinema sins or whatever that people are
Hmm.
like, oh, I guess that is a plot hole. Plot holes can exist, and as long as they're small, ain't nobody gonna step it.
Yeah. And hey, sometimes you have a plot hole. Oh, well, that's just an opportunity for something cool. Hey, you learned that
Yeah.
this person was a liar. Ooh, you learned this person was part of this sect or religion that believes something totally different. So they told you
Mhm.
that, believing, yeah, totally that. And then you learned, no, that's not correct. Like,
Yeah.
that's just opportunity. Like, you got this.
Exactly.
And as for it says in response says now we are on a 2-hour side quest to rescue someone's cat, which I think, hey, if that's what people want to, if that's where the one shot turns to, and that's what everybody wants to do, and they're having a good time, guess what? It's a one shot about
Success.
rescuing a cat, baby. Like that's what you go with. And then
Exactly.
it ends, people have a good time, and guess what you have? The whole plot that you didn't use, you're ready for your next one shot because nobody did that. You changed the beginning, bring it up to where it's different until the spot where everything went off about the cat, and then everything after that could be about the same.
Mhm.
You just wrote another one shot.
That's another thing that I have for one shots. I always tend to over prepare for them just because, like you always think, oh, they're going to do this, then this, then this. I need like a 5-room dungeon. I need somebody that they're going to talk to. And then they end up getting sidetracked for 30 minutes in the first room on something very trivial, but they're enjoying it. So you keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice is, making your one shots a little modular. Make it easy to like remove a room. It's like, oh no, especially if you're doing like you're only going to have these people for 3 hours. You want a one to done It has to be done. There's no physical way you're ever going to see these people again or ever have the time to meet up with them again, especially like you're doing like a charity game or getting paid for it. Um, Make it a little modular so you can kind of pluck out some of the stuff as you go. It's like, oh, we're on 2 hours and I have like 3 rooms to go. Maybe we'll do one more room and then I'm going to take out another one. We'll see what happens. I think that is also something it's something I've done before. It's okay to remove a room from your dungeon and you can just keep it. Like it's not wasted effort because you can still run it again and they might run through that room again. You can just reorder them or all sorts of stuff. So
You said the word of our Lord and Savior of tabletop RPGs, modular. That is
modular, exactly.
that is how I think everything should be done. Like you have character name, and then every piece their personality, the information they have, every one of those is basically a different post-it note, and you put them wherever you need to. They talk to this person, well, this person over here now has that information.
Mm.
Oh, they're talking to the stable person who you had absolutely nothing for. Well, nobody was using this personality, so now it's their personality. Like that, yeah, all of that should be modular and movable. Um,
Mhm.
it's easier to do over time, but start with that in mind, and it makes it way better. That's
Yeah.
another thing. Yeah, do not say my one shot is this, and this is how it's going to go. Break that into a bunch of different pieces that you can move around.
Makes it
Um,
it also just makes it easier to understand for you as the dungeon master as well.
mm-hmm, totally agree. The smaller, like short hand, little snippets, bullet points. That's what I need. Like, and you'll learn as you go. This is your first one. You'll learn as you go what works for you. Whole sentences don't work for me. If I write a whole sentence and I'm live in a game, I will not read it. I have too many things happening for me to decipher my own freaking handwriting or whatever I've typed out. I need it to be quick, fast, and to fire something in my brain that reminds me of what I've already thought about. Um, Another really important thing I would say, Deebs brings up a good point of every one shot I've ever done has run 1 to 4 hours longer than the GM expected. Yeah, um,
Yep.
that is very important. Again, the modular side. If it's running too short, you can move stuff to stretch it out. If it's running too long, awesome. This is what's getting cut. Here, this is now at the end, and we're there. Um, Limit your scope creep is a big thing that happens when you're making a one shot or a campaign or whatever. Um, is you're like, well, they could do this. Oh, and then they could do this. Oh, and then limit it. Especially limited rooms. Every time you introduce
Yes.
a new area, that is a whole new thing you have to explain. There's a whole bunch of more things that they may want to interact with. There's probably going to be people in there. There's just it weighs down your adventure so much. Not necessarily in a bad way in like a campaign, but in a one shot where you're trying to move things along. Think more stage play. And like you want one or two sets. And that's where stuff's going to take place. And those things can
Exactly.
kind of change over time. But yeah, moving to a new area will absolutely bog down how long it takes.
True.
Uh, and another thing to keep in mind is that just like, well, I know for me, maybe for you too, but definitely when you're new and it's your first one, this is a learning experience. Like,
Yes, exactly. Yes.
take it as you're going to try stuff, you're going to see what works, you're going to see what doesn't work, and then you're going to do it better next time. You're going to do it in a way you enjoy next time. You're going to try something new next time because of what you learned this time.
Yes. Be open to it being a learning experience. Yeah. I think that's because that one, I think making sure everybody at the table knows it's your first time is a good thing. Like there's no shame in it. Everybody does something for the first time. And then it kind of having some feedback at the end. You can do like was it stars and wishes is a really good one. You can give stars from things
Yeah.
you really liked, and then wish for things that you could see more of next time, or wish that you had seen. I think that's a nice, fun, constructive way to give feedback that doesn't necessarily bleed into too much negative feedback. Um, yeah, just be open to the learning experience part of it, and be open to. if you do have some things you need to work on, be open to not taking that personally. I think that was something especially in the beginning when I was playing, it's like, no, 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 what I'm doing is not wrong. They're playing the game wrong. And it took a second to be like, no, these are like bad habits that I picked up from like watching Critical Role and Dimension 20. This is not a televised game full of comedians. Like these are normal people that just want like a normal game, and I
Hmm.
need to listen to their feedback. So be open to the learning experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like I mean, adventure is nigh. Like I obviously love actual plays. But like running a game for an audience is different than running a game for people at the table. Like you're
Exactly.
going to have a different game. There are different expectations. You can do more bogged down rules lawyering. You can do more. Yeah, we all just wanted to go on a shopping spree. All right. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't matter if it's entertaining to an audience, it's entertaining to the people at the table. And that's what matters. So
exactly.
yeah, don't think too hard about like, well, I need it to replicate this. Um, exactly what you're saying. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Deeb's bringing up, don't worry too much about everything flowing perfectly. If it's your first ever game, absolutely don't. Also, fun fact, don't worry about it flowing perfectly if it's not your first game. It won't. You'll have like
It won't.
one moment that flows perfectly, and that will feel so good, but it is going to be in a sea of things that didn't go quite the way you expected.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be, and honestly, what's going to down to is somebody is going. It's going to typically for me, it was combat. It's either a question about a spell or how grappling works, or something, and you're gonna be like, uh, give me the book. I'm gonna have to like look on my phone for the next minute or two. Um,
Yeah.
you just got to be okay with that, because that happens. That's also happens to. I've played for almost 10 years now. I've dungeon DM'd for almost as long. I still have to Google stuff. Everybody does. Nobody. There's very few people that I know that I feel like have an eidetic memory of the rules.
Yeah.
Especially with a new edition of the rules coming out that makes very subtle changes. Well, some of them are subtle, but be okay not knowing everything.
Yeah, I write my own systems and I still look those up. Like you're correct. There's no like
Yeah,
full memory bank of all rules, at least in my head. So
exactly.
yeah, don't worry about it. Uh, as I was saying, yeah, the ability also improve a lot of stuff, doing some minor stuff as you go seem like something that I've seen people say. Yeah, absolutely. It's very helpful. Um,
I like this question. How can you kill your players without being obnoxious? Smiley face.
I mean, I've done it. It's great. I've
Yeah.
been dead. I've been the dead player who's not upset because it was a good moment. It mattered. It was thematically and mechanically sound. Like,
Well, the thing that worries me is that kill players, not
oh,
characters.
that's true. Yeah. Well, if you
So
kill
I
your
am.
players, all right, that's just murder.
um, I think it one. It's perfectly fine if your players don't want their characters to be killed. That's something you'd maybe talk about at a session zero, whether or not death is on the table.
Oh,
Um, if
absolutely.
death is if death is on the table, I try my best to not make my characters die a stupid death. Um, so I never kill a character when their player is not at the table. If somebody else is playing the character because they couldn't make it that night, I make a rule that even if I have to bend the story slightly, like they can't die. Because I feel like that's such a
Yeah.
sucky feeling to like not be there and somebody who piloted your character made a mistake or something like that and your character got killed. So I don't kill them for that. I make it try to worthwhile. Like I remember one of my first games, I had a DM that made us roll a check for freaking everything. To open an unlocked door, I had to roll, and I rolled a nat one. And he reasoned that because I rolled a nat one, I must have tripped through the
What?
door and hit my head. And he rolled a d6, and I said I took 6 points of damage. I was a wizard
So that was
that
like,
had exactly 6 hit points, and he said my character died. Um,
wow.
and I think about that to this day, and it's so annoying to me as a player because I think if you're trying not to be obnoxious, make the death mean something. If they die in like a really heightened moment of combat, that feels earned. If they die because there's like this huge trap that triggered and like they weren't prepared for it, that feels more earned than being like, oh, they stumbled through a door and hit their noggin.
Mm-hmm.
So make it feel a little bit more earned. And don't do it in a way where it's like, I'm the dungeon master, you're dead now. To be like, add some dramatic tension to it, make it seem more like dramatic and somber, and like give it its proper weight. And like they might still have some harsh feelings about it, and that's just something you have to figure out with your table when like the safety rules and stuff you have as safety tools. I would just make sure that it feels good and earned, which is hard considering you're talking about killing a character. But
Yeah.
I don't know if there is an easy silver bullet for that one.
Yeah, I don't think there is. I think what you said on like is death on the table is an important thing to bring up. Like
Yeah.
I play games where I go like, yeah, resurrection is not a thing. Like if you die, you die. I'm not out to kill you, but like I really don't like
Could be.
the narrative consequences of yeah, but death is reversible. Like no,
Yeah.
I'm not willing to deal with that. Um, I think the kind of through line between all character deaths that both I've been on the side of and that I've been partially responsible for um, is consequences. That the
Mhm.
thing the person did, they knew could lead to it. Maybe immediately, maybe in a few turns, maybe long term, but they knew this was the risk they were taking. For
Yes.
like my first big campaign I was a part of, I spent like a hero point when someone was casting an AoE spell to push one of the other party members out of the way because I knew the spell and I knew it was like a dexterity based save, like a reflex save, because it was old open source OGL uh, 3.5, so it's like Monty Cook games, all that stuff. Um,
Mm.
and like I was like, oh, I know what this is. I'm more dexterous. I'm going to spend a point to push our big lumbering tank out of the way. And then I think I can survive this. And I failed the check and I took the
Mm.
damage and my character died. And
Oh yeah.
it was sad and it was not how it was supposed to go and it was a wonderful moment. Like it was I missed that character. I didn't make a new character, finished the campaign, but it was like it was fitting, it was fun, it mattered.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
I had players in, I think I might have mentioned this on stream somewhere before, where players, it was in a zombie apocalypse RPG I was running, and they had a like light bulb that they made, and they were plugging it in, and I was asking about how they built it, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, blah blah blah, do like this. Like, did you put, like, oh, okay, what'd you use for it?" And I was like, "Cool." They told me, and I was like, "Sweet." So no limiter, and they were like, "No." It's like awesome, and like basically they plug it in and make a super bright thing that then bursts, and all the zombies in the area are now aware of them because something really bright happened.
Mm.
They all start, and like one person made it out of that encounter, and it was a direct thing from like, oh no, we did this wrong, and then like one person got out and other people were like, I'll save you, and then they died. So
Mm.
like everything was because of consequences. Everything had a reason, both mechanically and thematically, of why it happened that way. um, and so I think that is a huge part of it.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think it's huge.
But also, for what you said, there is no silver bullet. Like,
Yeah.
and also, it's okay to lie to your players. Sometimes I've let people live when, oh, technically that was enough damage to cross that threshold, but I shaved a number off of it. So, ooh, oh, now they're not dead. Oh, how are you going to drag them out of here? They're very unconscious and bleeding everywhere. So, like, there's
Yeah.
still like tension and things. There's like, I don't want this character to die. I feel like this would be cheap or narratively unsatisfying. So, like, or like, I
Mhm.
didn't balance the encounter right, and this was too hard for them. And
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
okay, they don't have to suffer because of me.
Yeah, I think that's the there was a Pathfinder game I played in where we were like level 7 and the dungeon master had made the mistake of throwing like an elder water elemental at us. I don't think we made it past like round 3. And we were in the ship in the middle of the ocean, so there was nowhere to go. Like it was fight this water elemental or die. And we died. We definitely died. Um, and that was definitely on, and like he felt that too afterwards. Like he's at the end of the session, he's like, I think I balanced that incorrectly. Y'all have like smashed through all the encounters up to this point, so I gave you something much harder than you should have been able to like on paper do, but like you should have been able to pull it off. It should have been like a really hard fight, considering magical items and other stuff.
Hmm.
But he's like, I didn't take into account, like, because in Pathfinder things are a little different than 5e. It's like the rogue does not get sneak attack damage on constructs and elementals. So he
Mm.
was doing like 3 points of damage around. The AC was just a little bit higher than we could really effectively manage. All a lot of these things, and he's like, that's my bad. So what he did is he brought us back the next game. Like we all had like an out of death experience. We had to go through this like mini dungeon in the afterlife, like solving riddles and like stuff like that. So it made it interesting. There are ways that like death can be meaningful because we definitely died. That ended that part of the story. We effectively had like a refresh on the game after that. We were doing different things when that happened. After that happened, so there are ways that you can handle death and it still like be meaningful and change the story, but not necessarily like be the end of everybody's character.
Yeah.
Also, games like Merkborg and Alien and what is
Mm.
it?
Mothership.
Like games Mothership. I was thinking Mothership. Like those kind of. I think if you only play Dungeon Dragons, you tend to get really attached to your character and you start to like see a character as like a part of you. Those games help buttress you against that. But like, no, this is a character. It's okay if they die. They won't die nearly as much as my Merkborg character, who I run through like 10 in a game. But this one will hang around for a while, and it's okay. So, introducing your players to some different games where death isn't such a big deal, I think is also a good way to kind of make it feel a little bit better on their part.
Absolutely. Dread, another great like you're
Yes.
gonna die. Um oh, what's it called? The Zone,
Hmm.
literally posted as a play to lose RPG. Like, yeah,
Good one.
it's good way to deal with it and understand it. Also, I want to play The Zone. I haven't played it yet, but oh,
Heard of it, but I have not played. I definitely want to play that as well.
and it's like influenced by Annihilation, which is a wonderful book.
Yeah.
I still need to watch the movie, but it's a wonderful book. Rat Beach has The Zone. Ah, can Rat Beach run it for me? I want to play. Okay, it is time. We said about 90 minutes. Assuming I can
Mhm.
math, it has been 90 minutes. So we'll. Oh, wait, one thing before. Someone did bits, so I have to read it. Zonlord with a tier of 50. Uh, oh, when we were talking about villains a little bit ago. Says, for example, I ran a Dresden Files like Savage World campaign. Shout out to Savage Worlds. Heck yeah. Fable Hunters. I've got a BBEG who's a dragon from Arthurian times. Oh, because we were talking about dragons. And he's got lots of plans going, but I've had to improvise on the fly to make it look like he's legitimately a hands in every jar manipulator. So, kind of a lie in that I don't plan his actions ahead of time, but it's still in keeping with the character. Absolutely. Your
Yeah, it makes
characters
sense.
can be smarter than you. That I often play characters that are smarter than me, that are more charismatic than me. Like that they are things like I cannot do this thing, so I need the game to make up the slack. And that's how it should work for NPCs as well. So, heck yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree.
All right. Well then, thank you so much. This has been
Yeah,
a
thank you for
delight.
having me.
You are absolutely welcome. Quick shout out to you and what you do and where you want people to find you and stuff.
I am Run DMG. You can find me pretty much anywhere on any form of social media on the internet. I'm well, the normal ones, like the more mainstream ones, like Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I make all sorts of Dungeons and Dragons tabletop RPG content. I make little funny little skits. I do some serious, more like educational how to do thing types of content. I do a little bit of everything, and I'm just having fun, uh, trying to become king of the nerds to a certain degree on the internet, like everybody. But yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you for having me, and thanks everybody for the questions. A lot of really great questions and conversation in the chat. It was really cool.
Yeah, this our chat is amazing. They're always the best. Like it's always have great questions. Always cool people. Like y'all are great. I'll
Yeah,
say it
absolute
every week. I
pleasure.
don't care. I put your link to YouTube in there. Let me.
Awesome, thank you.
You're very welcome. Let me. Oh, if I would have been more prepared, I would have been like, aha, here's the other link for your blue sky. But I wasn't, so we're gonna do that. Oh well, if it'll go, there we go. Oh, and Twitch. Oh yeah, and your thing. Thank you. Cool. Thank you
Yeah,
so
and
much
if you want
for.
to know more about BBEGs, I just posted a video, a long form video at that, on YouTube talking about how to make building a better BBEG. So this was great timing. It's almost like
Hey.
I chose the subject.
Oh my gosh, what we didn't lie about choosing something. It was definitely no, absolutely check out that video and that link that I just sent, which will go right to your channel. So thank you very much. Thank you everybody. I hope
Thank
you
you.
all have a fantastic week. Goodbye.
Bye.